Hi guys. Okay, so this is our American Democracy panel discussion on the Hong Konger documentary that we watched a couple weeks ago. I'm Katie Randall. I'm a psych major, and I go to Vanguard University here. And these are my panelists. You guys can introduce yourselves.
I'm Genesis Andrade. I'm a criminal justice major.
Hi, my name is Leah Mays, and I am a psychology major.
I'm Megumi Ono. I'm a psychology major.
And I'm Marvin Towns. I'm a business administration major.
Okay, perfect. So these are our panelists, and we all go to Vanguard University, and we're so excited to share our thoughts on Jimmy Lai and how he fought for democracy and his rights. So we're going to go into our time of discussion on the 5 discussion questions that we picked as a group. First one is going to be, what was your favorite part of the documentary and why? I'll have Genesis start.
Okay. So my favorite part of the documentary was the part where he described tasting chocolate for the first time. I think that showed like a lot of privilege in an aspect because he didn't even know what chocolate tastes like. And like that's a very common thing for, people in the US or people in countries where there's like more freedom and less poverty. So I think it showed more of like a humility aspect from him.
Awesome. Okay. Megumi, you want to go first or second?
Sure. I really enjoyed seeing like his backstory because it showed like why freedom mattered so much to him, and also all of the interviews with the citizens of Hong Kong made like this issue feel more like authentic and not just like a political thing that's just there.
Awesome. Marvin?
I was kind of struck by when he was in prison because it revealed the real human cost of standing up for freedom. His arrest wasn't just like a political event. It showed how far he was willing to go for his principles, and just.
You're good. And then next we're gonna have Leah speak.
So, bouncing off of Genesis, my favorite part of the documentary was realizing that like there was so much more to life beyond China. Also with the chocolate for the first time, something many of us take for granted. And like I agree with Genesis, and it just, it's just such an eye-opening experience, and like we take it for granted.
Okay, awesome. Thank you guys for your response to question 1. Now we're going to question 2. If you could share a cup of coffee with Jimmy Lai, what would you want to talk about? Genesis, you can go.
I would ask how he stayed so strong knowing that he would be imprisoned. Because I feel like that's a huge thing to face when you're like, oh my gosh, I have to do this, but you literally might go to jail. And it's like you want to do something that means something and is super important, but then like also do you want those consequences of what you're putting yourself into?
Right. No, I totally agree with that. It's almost like kind of connects to Christianity. Like we know like life isn't going to be easy. Right. But we still do it. We still
even like the aspect of like Jesus himself, like he still went and got himself crucified, like knowing that was like a huge consequence for sins he didn't even commit.
Exactly. I totally agree. Okay. Megumi?
I think my biggest thing is like I would want to ask him if he regrets any of it, because he literally ended up in jail, and I feel like that's not a place that anybody really wants to be.
Yeah.
So that would be like my biggest question. And I also would want to know like what he wants the world's biggest takeaway from his experiences to be.
For sure. Cool. Okay, Marvin?
Just from watching the documentary, it wasn't exactly easy to grasp what kind of person he was, but something that popped up in my head out of curiosity was if he considered freedom and peace the same as like a person who lives in the country without freedom. When he thinks of freedom, does he also consider peace, like having that peaceful feeling when he finally reaches freedom, or he does just think of just feeling free and not being trapped and not having those restrictions anymore?
For sure. I like that. It's really deep. When you say that, do you mean like freedom for him wouldn't include peace, or it would include peace? Like
would it include peace?
Okay, go ahead. We're gonna go to Leah next on her points.
I would want to ask him what hope he held onto while trying to protect Hong Kong from a government he viewed as oppressive, why he chose to build clothing and like media companies instead of something unexpected like a chocolate business, and or what motivated him to take such like a tremendous personal risk for like the whole future of Hong Kong.
Now we're going to go to question 3. Lai believes that freedom requires sacrifice. Is there something in your life you would be willing to sacrifice for a cause you believe in? Genesis, do you want to go first?
Yeah. So I once had to defend a friend or a teammate, I would say, against a coach who was treating her wrongfully. And ultimately that sacrificed like my position on the team because I started like being benched more, and I received a bunch of consequences just for standing up for that. But I don't regret it because eventually that coach was taken care of and like repercussions were met. And that friend and I are like lifelong friends now, and it's like a super big deal that she had someone in support of her, let alone just having someone on the team that you know will stand up for what is right over just the position or the leadership aspect or role that they obtain. So I think that's really important.
For sure. It's awesome. Okay, Megumi, you want to
go? I've had to give up a few friendships with some people because they just didn't respect others. Even like if they didn't agree with them, they didn't respect people. And one of the biggest things for me, like in my opinion, is treating everybody with kindness and being respectful with everybody. And so I sacrificed a couple of friends. I didn't sacrifice my friends. I sacrificed my friendships.
No, I totally get what you're saying. Yeah, definitely like boundaries and having self-respect too. Just like knowing that like you're gonna have to sacrifice maybe having more status or friendships to be like happier in the end. Yeah. Marvin, do you want to go?
I've never really had a moment in my life where I had to sacrifice something for a cause that I believe in. But if anything, I would kind of agree with Megumi. I would like sacrifice one of my friendships if I had to, or just like maybe my sleep or like my spare time, just to support the cause.
Right. Awesome. Okay. And Leah?
I believe that true freedom often requires like courage, and I would be willing to make like serious sacrifices such as protecting the freedoms like we have at home, risking my own comfort or safety to inspire like positive change in the country, and like standing firmly by my faith in Christ even when it comes at a personal cost.
Awesome. Thank you guys for your response to question 3. Now we're going to go on to question 4. So it says, Jimmy Lai risked everything for his principles. Have you ever had to stand up for something you believed in, even when it was difficult? We'll go to Genesis.
Yeah, so one thing that I had to stand up for when it was difficult was, well, not only that coach thing, but I actually, I made like a peaceful protest thing at my school because one of my friends specifically was being like racially targeted. And that was like really hard to do, and a lot of people were looking at us like with hate and just like had a lot of things to say. But I think it was really important because our message was stronger than their hate and their clouded judgment, and ultimately we showed the school that like we weren't just gonna sit here and take bullying or take discrimination or anything, and we actually like took a cause against it. And I think like that really showed that.
That's awesome. Megumi, do you want to go?
Well, I'm not a very like confrontational person or anything, so I've never done anything like large scale. But one thing that I don't believe in is like talking about people behind their backs. Because it's just, I don't think it's very cool. And so like back in high school, like when my friends would like talk about our teammates or whatever, I just like kind of walked away. And I think that's like the closest.
Yeah.
I've done. Yeah.
Yeah, I know for me, like I've definitely, I don't know, I feel like I'm pretty confrontational sometimes, but I definitely like had to tell some people, like one time it was like a dance. It was like this stupid thing. There was like this dance and they were like, oh, well, you guys can't go here because we're going to this restaurant. And I'm like, guys, it's a public restaurant. Like, it's okay if like more than just your group of friends is gonna go. Plus, like you say, you're our friends, so like, why is this such a big deal? But anyways, yeah, I like had to do that and just remind them like, let's be a little nicer. Like everyone's just trying to have a good time, and you're kind of ruining it. So, yeah. Marvin, do you wanna go?
I once decided to stand up for a teacher that was being disrespected by a student. As a person, I just don't like when people get disrespected in general, and when I see it, and I like to act on it. It was a little harder for me just because, during high school, it was kind of the thing to disrespect teachers, I guess, or you seemed weird if you were on the teacher's side rather than the student side.
Yeah.
So it was a little harder for me in that way, but it did feel better, standing up for that teacher when everyone else was just silent.
For sure. Yeah. Okay, and then we'll have Leah speak.
So, sourcing from Megumi and Marvin, I've had to stand up for what I believe in many times also, whether it meant confronting people whose priorities didn't necessarily align with mine. Also letting go of relationships and like various friendships when our ideas of like right and wrong were like too different. So yeah.
Okay, awesome. Now we're gonna go on to our final question. What role do you think ordinary people like us can play in standing up for truth and justice? And we'll start with Genesis.
Yeah, so I think there's a huge importance in sharing like actual factual information. Like Megumi had said, like we don't talk behind people's backs, like you don't spread lies, gossiping, rumors most especially. I think that's like a super big thing because like those are all like contributing factors into making like a bigger picture of something that can be like detrimental and like harsh on others. And also just like being consistently like brave and challenging lies, and like not to be like, oh, you have to be confrontational, but just like standing up for what's right. Like if you know something's wrong, and you can always feel it, like you see something, like you have to say something. And I know that's like a common saying, but it's truth.
For sure. I definitely agree with that. Okay, Megumi.
I think another thing that we can do is like for like these causes that we all believe in, we could volunteer at places that support that. We could donate to their, fundraisers or whatever, and just bring like awareness to these things. And I feel like those are like just like little things that we can do.
For sure. No, I would say kind of to backtrack on what Genesis said, like having like truthful like info when you're like talking about what you're passionate about with people, like making sure you're not getting your info from like social media, and like making sure it's backed up with like actual things. I feel like is really a big thing for when you're trying to support or stand up for truth and justice, because how are you gonna stand up for truth and justice when you don't have like the right facts? And yeah, also just like being kind and like carrying through it all, because I feel like a lot of people try to stand up for truth and justice and it's from like the right place, but they kind of handle it in a way that is super like rude or mean and just more self-centered than for like the greater good of like the whole community.
Period.
Marvin,
I was thinking, we could always do something like create groups that stand up for truth and justice, that do multiple things like protests, spread little things on social media, or even just vote. Just having a group of people that all agree with the same thing to make it stronger.
For sure. Yeah. Okay. Leah?
I think ordinary people can play a powerful role in standing up for truth and justice because even one voice is better than silence. By having real conversations with those we disagree with and finding understanding, and by doing small everyday actions that slowly like build movements, we can like help inspire like meaningful like change like step by step.
Okay, awesome. Okay, with that, we're coming to a close on the panel discussion. As you can see, it takes a lot of courage and effort to stand up for what you believe in. Kind of like Jimmy Lai, we learned how we need to be courageous through all of what we do if we want to be heard. And sometimes even being heard has consequences. So like we saw, he is now in prison and he still is in prison. But we're hoping that he can get out soon. And yeah, with that, we just wanted to thank you for joining our discussion. And yeah, have a blessed day.